Would you please make welcome from Canada, Bob Jensen.
Thank you very much. During the recession of 1982, I lived for a brief time on the streets of Tampa, Florida. And that's what this first poem is about. It's a true story. What drew me to the holy streets of Tampa, where perdition and salvation walked together and shared the darkened corners where the wayward lay their heads when Saul reposes? Was it winter or recession that brought the great migration, providence or desperation that pulled us to your heart? Such cruelty I had not yet imagined, broken men, midnight torches, like Nero's brilliant Christians, illuminating Roman streets with oil and wood and martyrdom. Such benevolence I had not yet imagined, kindness and charity that I did report as sacraments. And who are you, JC, with the initials of a savior and the piercing eyes of the devil? How did you come to purchase your accommodation in the cruel cage of Attica? What was the dark heart of your secret? Was it murder or something more sinister? For a soul can no worse stain than the lethal mark of Cain. We did not steal, but we ate the food you'd stolen. We did not trust you, but we let you watch our backs. For hunger and weakness are not so discerning as abundance and strength. We three, each in our own way, sought the eye of the needle, the narrow gate into the holy city. I dismounted and found it on the street, and beneath the bridges where bedrolls and refuse passed for an abode. For the gate was not a golden arch, but a broken road trodden by the unholy, the unclean, the untouchables. You too saw it in the charlatans, the false prophet who offered salvation for $100, but whose pernicious spell dissipated like the early morning fog before the sun at Tampa's heavy dawn. Tampa, thou holy city, Tampa, thou son of perdition, where salvation was offered for a beggar's alms and hobos carried scripture. In a little church on Franklin Street, I met one of your prophets, an old street fighter whose road to Damascus ended in the holy city, Tampa. He spoke to the killers, he preached to the whores, reached out to the junkies with dead eyes and open sores, gave hope to the hopeless with words like a dart, past tired ears to pierce broken hearts. Sons of perdition granted exemption, atonement traded for priceless redemption. I saw her at the organ, old and frail, erect and fearless, amazing grace and dignity and stature. A broken man approached her, dressed in rags and gaunt and cheerless, amazing fodder for the coming rapture. Told her a tale of hopelessness, of solitude and pain, how he'd failed both God and man, how his life was but a stain. Saw the goodness in her eyes as she took his filthy hands, raised her voice to heaven to invoke the Son of Man. The prayer that flowed was canticle, the tears that flowed a river, the tongues of fire above their heads gave my soul a shiver. A Pentecostal prayer in a language known to God, raised a broken man to ecstasy. Benediction we did laud. Felt his presence in the room. His pureness touched my heart. His grace like Moses' staff, making seas of sorrow part. Heard his voice against the wind. Saw his face against the sun. Felt his sorrow on my cheeks when the deluge had begun. Knew his grace as I lay sleeping, assailable, exposed, beneath the open sky, in exhaustion's deep repose. For we had no door to sprinkle, no dispatch in the night. We beseech thee, pass us over, until morning's cherished light. For we too might well have been enkindled in the night, like Nero's brilliant Christians, to give the pagans light. If thou wouldst seek the holy city, seek thee not a gate of gold, for the secret of the portal has 2,000 years been told. It is a rough-hewn highway the unholy seek to tread. We must count ourselves among them, see that they are loved and fed. For the architect of Eden and the one whose gate we seek walked with such as these, the lost, the lame, the meek, to reach the holy city and that splendid restive seat. Walk thee not only among them, but anoint their blistered feet. Gather thee the stragglers from Medusa's drifting raft, that when he sees thee coming, he might kill the fatted calf. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a thrill to be so far from home and have the opportunity to perform my poetry with such a wonderful group of artists from all over Canada and here in Australia. This is Tony McManus from Canada by way of Scotland on guitar, and Paul Kelly on didge over here, who I think just kind of lives up the road. Yeah. And I'm going to introduce a Mi'kmaq artist now from Eastern Canada. Hubert Francis comes from the province of New Brunswick, where I grew up, and he's going to perform a poem of mine called Rain.
Hi, everyone. Rain, Kik Pesan. The earth shows no contrition, neath gentle falling rain, yet the open arms of Jordan will absorb its primal stain. For she was born of light and carbon, singularly chaste, forged in the inferno, laid to darkness, there to waste. Then travelleth she in sorrow, her contractual hour come, until she was delivered of the forest's favored son. And he stood clean and upright, no blemish on his hand, pure as the Jordan's cargo traveling through the arid land. But the long dry summer lingered, and autumn's feast was dearth. The fruit he found was knowledge to subjugate the earth. And as the soil lay barren for the parching want of rain, he began to carve his mother's face, surely the mark of Cain. But thirst is not judicious, and hunger does not blame. When the sun shall ask the Father, why doesn't thou hold the rein? For thou hast parched the land, given hunger to my breast, till I must defile the garden where my mother's ashes rest. Send forth now abundant rain to keep our valley green, where the sun honors the mother in that lush pastoral scene. In my language. Ulagit pesan tanwajia waso tan sakpado ulama amigo nama aijido ulasibu uladangdo samgudijik majwin Walalio. Thank you.
29 years ago, I had the most remarkable dream, and even after all this time, I still derive comfort from it. I call this Who But Daniel. I saw him in a dream so many years ago, laughter beyond measure from that small aortic flow. Even now, I cannot help but smile as I recall the way I knew his heart on that rainy night, that fall. My voice was in his laughter, and his joy was in my soul. His love was in my breast, like the bonfire's warming coals. And when I shook the sun and bade him wake the lazy day, still I felt his laughter, and it kept the rain at bay. And all day long I wondered who the laughing child could be, for I could not place his eyes, but his soul was known to me. And though he never spoke a word, his message was quite plain, that his heart was full of living, that his joy was unrestrained. And who could solve a dream like this but Daniel in the den? How does a soul know what to choose to show the love within? But that night the rain kept falling, and his laughter left my ears, and it was the darkest evening, watered with the cruelest tears. For the hopeful place that we had set for one as yet to come would be taken from our table before the morning sun. Our tears were like November's darkened days of frozen rain, and the searing air we breathed, splinters pulled against the grain. And when the skies had cleared and the tears had drained away, I thought back to the recent dream I'd had upon that day. A laughing little boy without a single word to say, unbridled in his joy, like the leaping trout's ballet. Perhaps he made a shallow dive into the living stream, but still he saw the eddies where the sleeping rainbows dream. Perhaps he saw the sorrow that was coming on the dawn, and perhaps he let me know that the journey was still on. For who would share that dream but my Daniel in the den? And who knows what a soul might choose to show the love within. Thank you. So now, Mr. Tony McManus is going to perform a song that I wrote when I was 18 years old, and I'm 60, so it's an old song. And when I was 17 years old, I wanted to be like Woody Guthrie. So after I finished grade 11, I hitchhiked from Atlantic Canada to Vancouver Island and back. It was some 9,000 miles, 6 weeks on the road. And as the spring came along and I was finishing up high school, I started to think about the previous summer and how I wanted to do that again. And I did, in fact, end up going on the road for quite a few years. So that's what this song is all about. It's called First Time Since August, and I give you Tony McManus.
No backing vocals from Bob Jensen. Wow. First time I felt like this since August. First night of light awake in the summer. Springtime is here again, and I want to leave again. The steaming pavement stretches out to freedom. Thought I'd get to college in the autumn. Guess it's time I made up my mind. None of us is getting any younger. Can't seem to budget up my time. It's all the things you want to do before you're 22. They cost so much, the price leaves you crying. And I remember Laurie oh so dearly, singing songs for me that I could have written. Bought them all the way down from Delta. Wonder what she's doing today. Sometimes I hate the things that make me happy. The steaming pavement stretches out to freedom. Loading geese on a truck in the Rockies, sleeping in a small town in the rain, sleeping down on my bedroom floor. Wonder should I take the chance again? Springtime is here again, and I want to leave again. The steaming pavement stretches out to freedom. There's all the things you want to do before you're 22. They cost so much, the price leaves you crying. There's all the things you want to do before you're 22. They cost so much, the price leaves you crying.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you. I think we all reach an age where we start to think, boy, if I had known then what I know now. And that's what this next poem is about. It's called The Poet's Advice to His Younger Self. Go forth into that morning and ride towards the sun, and climb your 100 apple trees before the day is done. And never count the seconds or the paths your heart will trace, and savor each sweet moment that the sun shines on your face. And when the tide is out, breathe deeply, you are free. Assume the siren soul of the wild and restless sea. And never waste a morning spent idle in your heart, for the orbit of the planet seems much slower at the start. But the days of endless summer and the everlasting nights are but a cruel illusion, obscured by childhood's rites. And when your heart awakens and love comes to the fore, never leave those feelings stand outside the timid door. For the apple you leave hanging while you make your bashful plans will drop before the sun into another boy's keen hands. Beyond the squandered afternoon, when night drops like a stone, but one word written in your heart, and that word is alone. And if you'd see a sunrise that brings you peace of mind, above all things avoid the sting of acts that are unkind. For unkindness is a verdict for each petty schoolyard crime, and regret is but an echo that does not fade with time. So ride into that morning, go careless, swift, and free, and assume the siren soul of the morning's restless sea. And never leave a rosy apple hanging on the bough. Love as if the only moment left is here and now. And for each fallen sparrow who sports a broken wing, let kindness be the only song the day will hear you sing. So seize the day and love the way you'd have love come to you. May your kindness be as boundless as the ocean's deepest blue. Thank you. There can be no refund for the uncollected dawn, no second chance to sail upon a tide that's come and gone. The sister's fate will cackle at the dream that slipped away and see your tears as wages for a debt you can't repay. And should you wait upon the shore, bereft in endless rue, your dream upon the tide forgone will not return to you. For yesterday is ruthless, her name is penned in stone. She will not be corrected, though you tear your flesh from bone. Her verdict is beyond reproach, no convict may appeal. Her prison is the truth, and the truth she speaks, her seal. So will you serve your sentence as a boy or as a man, and look towards the east and let the western sky be damned? The days will pass more quickly, and you will not feel alone if you set another's happiness 1 mile beyond your own. Forget regrets collected on your lonely prison shelf, and show the morning love that is not focused on yourself. For if yesterday was written by a foolish, cocksure man, tomorrow will be written with the pen that's in your hand. Thank you. And now we are going to bring out Mr. Shane Howard. As Shane was saying, we met in Canberra some years back, and we become friends. We don't see each other often, but Shane and I managed to do a little traveling in Eastern Canada a few years ago. And the way I get excited when I see a kangaroo, Shane and his friend Artie went, "Oh my God, stop the car, a skunk."
Moose.
Yeah, we had some good laughs about moose because they're big.
They're big.
Anyway, there you go.
Well, how I met Bob was as an agent for musicians and representing everyone from Ron Hines, the great Canadian songwriter who wrote Sunny, that Mary Black made very popular in Ireland and beyond. And people like Pete Seeger. But of course, as you all know now, Bob is much more than just an agent. He's a beautiful poet. And this is quite epic. This is a bit like the Aeneid, this one. But it's a beautiful rite of passage poem called No One's Son. And I'm joined by Paul Kelly. The real Paul Kelly. I was born upon a brilliant day, in August such as this, my mother's birthday. When they remember how the Queen of Heaven cheated death and the corruption of the flesh. Or so they told us on our fete nationale. I made no assumption, nor was I likely to. For my solitary fear, when silence was replete, and my soul was stark and naked in the absence of deceit. When bravado took a breather, and the day was nearly done, and the errant recognition I was no one's son. I was born with broken bones, a breached deal, overzealous in the womb, anxious, fidgety, not willing to clear customs in the usual way. For there was a highway and a sunset, and a grackle's joyful call, a paper boat upon an orange horizon, and a hidden pond bursting with mystery. But who would build such a road unless there was some sanctuary? A small arm appeared, a small hand beckoning. I had not yet arrived, and and already I was in serious trouble. I was not prepared to wait, to be processed in the accepted way. Born with the stamp of a troublemaker, my arms pinned, shoulder broken, and a lifelong detestation for clearing customs in the usual way. And my solitary fear, when evicted from the womb, for the cutting of that cord, was a dreadful kind of tomb. Was that trouble at the border obliged me now to run? A brand new desperado, and I was no one's son. I was born of two fathers, one soft and gentle, one hard and stern. One kept me on his knee, and one on bended knee. For a while I waxed into my filial indenture. I was the good and obedient son. But then there was a highway and a sunset and the mysteries of the night and the fragrance of the flesh and the urgent lure from innocence. I chose the world, turned my back on my fathers, closed the door behind me on two houses, to sleep rough in the world. I returned to one when I was cold and hungry, for I did not have to genuflect in that house. I did not feel the eyes of judgment upon me at my father's table. I was the errant son, the prodigal progeny, perennially impoverished, with a deep and unassailable thirst, and empty pockets. Vigorous under the moon, indulgent in the blinding glare of the midday sun. Always searching for a highway when there was hard work to be done. And my solitary fear lay dormant in the night when the room was filled with the cheer, the crowing cock, nowhere in sight. But the truth could not be hidden neath the cruel, relentless sun. that I had failed both fathers. I was no one's son. Filled in equal parts with sunshine and bone-chilling cold, epiphany and self-loathing. I didn't think it would be a long road, thought that it would come to a quick, abrupt end. Halting as a tombstone, hard, fixed, immovable. Blocking the horizon. But the road was long, and I chose it easily. There was no destination, no designated terminus, only a highway, endless, meandering and rough, fraught with danger. In a sparsely stocked larder, a daily dram of chance, morsels of adventure, crumbs of love, and a fleeting glimpse of eternity. There were cold nights too, with darkness so complete it seeped into my bones, permeated my unvarnished soul, and tried to tear it bone from flesh. If I had not held fast with one uncertain hand, on that cliff at the edge of the world, it might have just slipped away into that vast ether. I might have passed into that night that is not rescued by the warming rays of the dawn. The sun did circle round the earth in a most Catholic orbit, to rise and warm my bones, breathe the soul back into my body. For I was born of the sun, running towards that final pile, born of two fathers, a runaway nobody's son, born of the Lamb. Now I sit along the roadside, in October's warming glow, surrounded by beauty, in the pleasant afternoon, out of breath, out of pocket, while the hourglass becomes more sober, less tipsy. With every fleeting grain of sand, November in the climbing path, room before me now. I don't even find the footing of spring. And this road does not possess two lanes. The ascending path is narrow, rough and rocky, fraught with peril. Who would build such a road unless there was some sanctuary, a cabin with a warming fire at the end? I choose to believe that there will be, for such is the naivety of faith. I choose to believe that my fathers have set a candle in the window of autumn's blood-red wine to climb. My solitary prayer, with the sun behind that hill, my soul empty of life, and the autumn's evening chill, set the table in that cabin for one and one and one, and one more chance I pray thee, to be my father's son.
Thank you, Shane. A couple of years ago, I took a Christmas tree, a spruce tree, in from the freezing cold to let it thaw so we could decorate it for Christmas. And about an hour later, we noticed that there was some movement in the branches, and there's a beautiful yellow swallowtail butterfly, and it seemed to me like a metaphor. And so I wrote a poem called The Swallowtail, and Tony and I recorded a single with it, and we managed to pick up bits and pieces of airplay all over the world with it. And we're going to perform that now. The Swallowtail, whenever you're ready, Tony. The Swallowtail. The December had embraced the land with solemn arms of clay. No swallowtail to cheer the frozen meadow with its play. The lupin and the lady slipper lost in deep repose. Likewise the singing cricket where the morning glory rose. Oh, where the song of summer the meadow did lament, the fledgling and the swallowtail, the lavender's sweet scent. Oh, where the kids of April, the downy winds of June, the bleeding lamb held to my breast beneath the swollen moon. Gone into the stillness, the cold north wind replied. Gone into December's quick embrace, the mistral cried. I took a frozen spruce in from the cold to cheer my night, adorned the boughs with candles to give the pagans light. The branches warmed had soon performed a curtsy and a sigh, while bowing low the forest scent was sent a mile high. And when at last the spruce was cheerful and pleased to share its light, I spied a glint of yellow emerging in the night. Upon a limb of needles, pristine and whole and free, a newly wakened swallowtail began to speak to me. Oh, do not mourn the swallowtail, the cricket and the rose. Do not lament the sun's descent when cold the north wind blows. For deep December's bluster has hidden us from sight, but you shall see, Persephone will free us from this night. For spring will follow winter, as dawn will follow night, and we are always close at hand. We keep you in our sight. All through the merry season did the swallowtail abide, a yellow hint of sunshine when the night was cold outside. But as the days grow longer and the warming spring draws nigh, oft I catch a glint of yellow in the corner of my eye. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Vincent van Gogh used to talk about these intense periods of clarity that he experienced. He said, I experience a period of frightening clarity in those moments when nature is beautiful and I am no longer sure of myself and the paintings appear as in a dream. And I think most of us have kind of had those moments, those little epiphanies where it seems like the universe just comes together and we're at the center of it and it's perfect. And I've had those, and this poem, which I call The Ecstasy of One, is an attempt to describe that. And we're going to see what kind of chops Tony has here, because he's going to be doing one of the Bach cello suites to accompany me. Ready to go, Tony?
I think Bach was secretly writing for the guitar back in the 1700s.
Dawn is never tentative nor timid, nor commiserate with those who dread its light. It illuminates the evil and the good, the fearful and the brave, and sends its lush rains to the meadows of the just and the unholy without prejudice or favor. It does not possess an ear to hear the prayer of the afflicted, nor a heart to feel the terror of its first encroaching rays upon those who taste its hunger or receive its burning sky. Nor will dawn be rushed to climax by those who seek its beauty for the sake of the impatient or the fumbling hand of chastity. The first faint rays will pulsate softly through swollen thunderheads and slowly build towards a symphonic crescendo of light, erupting on the naked horizon in an atmospheric coupling that will leave the voyeur trembling. On the shores of Mother Ocean, on the shores of the new morning, on the shores of eternity and of the artistry of God. To the young, the summer days will linger, timeless love in dappled orchards, salty afternoons on August endless shores, cotton battened bluster on a cobalt-shattered sky, aching with the fervent love of union and the visceral awareness, the ecstasy of one. Eternal to those who are lost in its sensual embrace, consumed like moths in its conjugal flame, drawn to the rim of that shining cup, on one side the abyss, on the other the ecstasy of one. Outside of time, immune to the setting sun, surrounded by eternity on all sides, open-ended to the tiniest of minds, the immaculate conception of the unlearned, faith and eternity, indistinguishable, held by the smallest hand, tight and warm and sticky, clutched not with trepidation, but with reckless abandon. Days without end, dreams without waking, waves that are unbroken, tides that never fall, flight like the albatross, who never touches down. Stand and face the sun, open the palms of your hands and accept nothing but the warm rays upon your skin, the fragrant breeze inside your nostrils, the fervent love of union, the ecstasy of one. Accept everything that you can change and that you cannot change, that you love and that you hate. Deny the setting sun, for the warm rays on your face bind you to it, and you may impede its orbit with cables of desire, with the fervent love of union and the ecstasy of one. Thank you. We're going to bring Mr. Hubert Francis back out. I've always thought that the eagle was somewhere between heaven and earth. He seemed like it seems like a metaphor to me. That's something that is between what's profane and earthly, and there's something holy about the majesty of the eagle. And the eagle, as Hubert may tell you, is very important in Canadian Aboriginal cultures. And so please welcome Mr. Hubert Francis back to read Flight from Japa.
Thank you. The eagle in our culture, the bird is very sacred because it flies closest to the Creator. The spirit of the eagle carries our prayers to the Creator. The flight from Japa. The eagle does not look to heaven for permission to cast the speeding anchor of his shadow on the land. He takes it without effort or apology, climbing ever closer to the sun, like a Viking longboat rising on the wind. News of his approach upon the timid shores of dawn strikes terror. In the meadows, little monasteries, jumbled stone and fallen ash, where the prairie dog takes shelter, hidden from the sun in cold, damp crypts of fear. In my language. Nahulagit po, bewideged. Bewiyaji, Weezus, ha enkejid. Ha ula sisip alasurtijik. Kaamida nebada adik amichultik. And so he subjugates with ease the blue pit of the sky. And though he take the lamb of spring and kills the bleeding voice of May's pastoral innocence, yet he is undiminished. And God will hold him blameless, for the faint heart of the meadow is grateful for its king against the endless blue who keeps it wild and free. And when he deigns to seize the dawn, both God and man take notice, immaculate on high, halfway between the earth and heaven, seeking no approval nor asking any quarter. For the plodding heart of man may have a soul, but only God, and he shall soar unfettered above the thin white wedge of dawn and claim the purple heavens, flowing fast to royal blue as their personal domain. And if the eagle has no soul, he is the earthly soul of God, and yet the choicest portion of the soul of lowly man. And when he flies from Joppa, he soars upon the currents of the vanity of God, and his shadow on his pastures like an anchor, like a dove, speeding high above. The meadow's little monasteries, fallen ash and jumbled stone, where the flightless take their shelter in cold, damp crypts of fear. Thank you.
Mr. McManus. Just let me know when you're ready to go. Pale-eyed minstrel boy. He was born thirsty for the early morning sky, inhaled the sun like orange juice, and drank the bright dawn dry. He woke the sleeping swallow with his laughter and his tears, while the world slept around him in his younger, wilder years. His pale blue eyes were question marks. His heart was on his sleeve, and a dirge was on his lips when the full moon was bereaved. And hidden in his breast, in a place he dare not name, a shattered heart kept time for the love that never came. And who in spring's bright morning, while the sun is in his way, thinks to count the hours while the lilacs bloom in May? And who, when they are parting in summer's youthful rain, ever has the notion they might never meet again? I knew him in the night when the drunken moon did call, and in the squinting morning when contrition's tears did fall. And all the locals knew him too, his thumb out on the road, reflecting homeward lights like the ghost of Tom Joad. Now April is a-comin', Ice is breaking on the shore, but that pale-eyed minstrel boy don't come around here anymore. Last time that I saw him, he was running for a train. The only time he had the sense to come in from the rain. And who in spring's bright morning, while the sun is in his way, thinks to count the hours while the lilacs bloom in May? And who, when they are parting in summer's youthful rain, ever has the notion they might never meet again? Sometimes I miss that minstrel boy who drank the bright dawn dry. I guess I never thought he'd leave when I was young and high. I miss his easy laughter, and I miss his easy tears. I miss his easy love in his younger, wilder years. Just once I caught a glimpse of him. It took him by surprise. I could see the years written on those pale blue eyes. For there he stood before me, like a man out on parole. He was looking in the mirror and searching for his soul. And who in spring's bright morning, while the sun is in his way, thinks to count the hours while the lilacs bloom in May? And who, when they are parting in summer's youthful rain, ever has the notion they might never meet again? Thank you. In the 20th century, there was a composer of piano music by the name of Erik Satie, and he wrote some very beautiful music, although some of it is kind of odd, and to say the least. And Tony recorded my favorite of Satie's compositions. It's a piece called Gnossian No. 1. And when I heard Tony's version, I was so smitten with it. It was so emotional. It seemed to be it seemed to convey sorrow and a desire for redemption. And I thought, I have to write a poem to Tony's version. So I did do that. What I did was I sat down, I listened to the music, I listened to what I felt Tony was trying to convey. And these are the words that came. As I chase a heathered path between the ivory sea and heaven, the gannet's acrobatics fairly lift my buoyant eyes. Though I'm light upon the sweetgrass as a soul that's fully leavened, I do not see the plover's tiny nest there undisguised. For the heavens call a man as they hail a coltish boy, and the moon's a compass for the drunken heart. And the feet that leave the earth in unmitigated joy are heedless to the undiscerning path that they will chart. And when I fall from heaven, drunk and graceless and alone, I pray I will not crush that tiny shell upon those unforgiving stones. For each minnow that I've taken from the morning's bright and pristine, hopeful stream, does a steady burn of teardrops count as alms to recompense their stolen gleam? Reckless is the fool whose path he does impel, with carelessness upon this joyful run. For each time I've been unkind or tread upon a tiny shell, regret is like the helpless trout laid in the midday sun. And when I fall from heaven, drunk and graceless and alone, I pray I will not crush that tiny shell upon those unforgiving stones. For each minnow that I've taken from the morning's bright and pristine, hopeful stream, does a steady burn of teardrops count as alms to recompense their stolen gleam? Thank you, Tony. That was beautiful. So we're going to bring out another guest now for a song that I wrote way back when. I grew up in a mill town, and there were different kinds of boats and ships in the harbor. And the ships would come in from all over the world to pick up the paper and take it as far as here in Australia. But there were also tugboats in the harbor, and so those sailors would be in the harbor doing their work during the day, and then they'd go home to sleep at night. And that again seemed to me kind of like a metaphor for settling instead of sort of chasing your dreams. So I'm really thrilled that Tim Chaisson from the East Pointers, who I'm sure you know, is going to perform that song for you. Thank you.
I leave this house at 5:15, when even the seagulls seem barely alive. There's steam on the bay and it's cold and it's wet. I talk with the watchman and smoke cigarettes. When I start up this tugboat, I cough and she chugs. There's a jam on the river and work to be done. When I was a young man, I dreamed with the waves, salt water running like the tide through my veins. But the market was glutted and the orders were down. Don't work on the big boats, the seas to be found. For all of my dreaming, I needed a job, so I signed with the paper mill, pulling these logs. And I try to keep trying, I work like a dog, but this seaway hauling is only for logs. And if I were a young man, no courage I'd lack, I sail on the big ones and never look back. ships on the bay. The young men are packing and sailing away. And they meet in the tavern, they're each in their own, and there's drinking and lying and money to burn. But I'm 48 now, the years slipped away. There's Nancy and the children and a mortgage to pay. And I try to keep trying, I work like a dog, but the Seaway hauling is only for logs. And if I were a young man, no courage I'd lack, I'd sail on the big ones and never look back. Oh, I try to keep trying, I work like a dog, but this Seaway hauling is only for logs. But if I were a young man, no courage I'd lack, I'd sail on the big ones and never look back. Thank you very much.
So thank you again, everybody, for coming. I want to thank the festival. I want to thank Carolyn for having me here, Tony and myself. I'd like to thank the techs and the stage managers and everybody who have helped us. I want to thank you. And I want to thank all these incredible artists who were so quick to say yes when I asked them if they would come to this show and perform some of my music and poetry. So in the spirit of other voices, I thought I would finish with a song by somebody else. I'm a very big fan of the late, great Townes Van Zandt, and we're going to do one of his songs. And I think it's kind of timely. I have to tell you that in Canada, we were absolutely heartbroken when we saw the fires that were ravaging your country. And I spoke to many people at home who expressed that they wish there was something that they could do. And of course, there really wasn't much that we could do from home. I believe we sent some planes down. But the world is kind of messed up right now with politics and with climate change. And I think it's a time when we all need each other. So we're going to do a song called If I Needed You. And it's got a great chorus. So we'd love it if you sing along. And we're going to run through the chorus a couple of times so you can learn it if you don't already know the song. And Tony, I'll just wait for your cue.
Any of you from Melbourne? What are you doing on Tuesday? The Spotted Mallard. Hey! Sunny Sydney Road in the People's Republic of Brunswick.
We're going to be at the Spotted Mallard, and Tony's buying the drinks. So you want to run through the chorus a couple times, Tony? If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I'd swim the seas to ease your pain. So we'll try that again if you want to try singing? If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I'd swim the seas for to ease your pain.
And the night forgone, oh, the morning's born, and the morning shines with the light of love. You will miss sunrise if you close your eyes, and that would break my heart in two.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I'd swim the seas for to ease your pain.
The lady's with me now, since I showed her how to lay her weary hands in mine. Weeping willow girl, she's a sight to see and a treasure for the poor to find.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I'd swim the seas to ease your pain. One more. If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I'd come to you. I'd swim the seas for to ease your pain. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. You're very kind. I have CDs. They're in the merch tent, and I have some with me, of spoken word and also of my music. So we'll see you around. Take care.
Bob Jensen.